Hello everyone, my name is Yannick Pelletier and I'm a Swiss Grandmaster. In this game I'm going to take a look and explain my win in just 15 moves against Magnus Carlsen. This was played in the Grandmaster tournament in Biel in 2005. So Magnus Carlsen was already a Grandmaster by then, but he was 15 years old, so very young. And actually this tournament in Biel was the very first top tournament in which the Norwegian talent back then was invited. Besides some other strong tournaments in Norway, this was actually the very first tournament, so he could face people like Gelfand or another young Nakamura in that tournament, and he actually played very decently. As you can see, his rating was a little bit low compared to the field, but with such a young age it was already clear back then that he would become very strong. 15 years old, that means Carlsen came to Biel with his parents and also with some friends of his from the school and everything who would play chess. And well, this game was played after the free day, after one of the two rest days in Biel, and on the day before, his parents actually went on a trip for 2 days in the Swiss mountains and left Magnus alone with his friends. And but of course his friends had some some guidelines on how Magnus should prepare for the games and should rest and so on, but I think they didn't really follow them, and it was said that Magnus Carlsen went quite late with his friends on the previous night, eating on the McDonald's and so on, and he possibly didn't focus completely to the game, whereas well, I actually prepared for this game quite carefully together with my second by then, who was the Grandmaster from Spain and Argentina, Javier Moreno, who would accompany me during a few Grandmaster tournaments in Biel, and there we decided to go for the following line against what was already Magnus Carlsen, would already play classical openings back then. So we went d4, I was white, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, queen c2. Not my main opening against the classical, because I usually go into Queen's Indian waters instead of the Nimzo Indian, but I did play Queen c2 on many occasions in the past, so I knew a few things. And we had noticed with my second Javier that that Magnus went for a special line which became popular in 2004 and 5, which actually disappeared since then. It was the not d5, because d5 is still the main move, but after c takes d5, the very strange pawn sacrifice c5 here, very provocative. Of course, you don't take back on d5, but instead of this you give up a whole pawn. And well, the idea is that black is going to get active play for his pieces if white takes the pawn. So actually my second Javier had a very interesting idea against that, and I managed to implement it. So we went d takes c5, which had still been played, knight takes d5, bishop d2, bishop takes c5. So white has actually given back the pawn, or actually he hasn't even tried to keep it. But after knight takes d5, queen takes d5, here I played e4. Magnus had a game a few months before against Erwin Lamy from the Netherlands, which had, I think he had played rook d1 or knight f3 or another move actually. But we had prepared this novelty e4, and we thought it was quite interesting and would probably promise white some initiative here. The queen is attacked, and wherever it goes back it will be subject to another attack by the white pieces, thus allowing white to increase or speed up his development. For instance, if the queen goes back to d6, we go rook c1 attacking the bishop on c5. There is also the bishop on c8 behind it, so knight d7, and now knight f3, castle, and e5, taking some space. Black cannot take on e5, of course the bishop would be hanging, so the queen has to go away, and then I'll be able to develop my bishop to d3, gain another tempo, and I'll be first to finish my development and keep some attacking chances. If he goes to c6, then again rook c1, and after bishop e7 I can play queen d3 and say queen d7, queen g3. castle and knight f3, and I have somehow a menacing position. His queen on d7 is a bit clumsy there. In other words, white keeps the initiative here. Well, he went to d4, hitting my pawn on f2, of course, and his idea is to have bishop b4. If I play bishop c3, he can play bishop b4, and I think he's equalizing actually in this position. But I went long castle. This is a very good move, because here queen takes f2 is simply refuted by knight h3, and wherever the queen goes, there will come bishop g5, winning the queen. So he has actually 3 squares, h4, f6, or going back to d4. And in all cases, I play bishop g5. Bishop g5 with the idea rook d8 mate. So I'm winning the queen, actually. So he can't take on f2, and that's why he went knight d7. An interesting continuation would have been f4 here, preparing knight f3, followed by e5, and gaining the initiative, certainly. But I decided to play bishop b5 because I saw that black actually cannot castle here. And but whatever he does, white is actually better here. If he plays a6, I could play bishop e3. For instance, queen e5. Well, here I can't really take the piece. If I take on d7 and on c5, there is rook c8, and the pin wins back the piece for black. So actually I should play bishop takes c5, queen g5 check is best, king b1, a takes b5, and after bishop b4, the black king is not castling actually, perhaps, in this game. And if he takes on g2, I have knight e2, queen takes f2, and things like rook d3, and it looks really dangerous here for black. But the options are not much better here. If he plays queen e5, I go knight f3, and I have fully developed already, so white keeps pressure, and in the same idea, queen d6, bishop c3, goes back to e7, I'll play knight f3, castle and e5, and we have another, again, this type of pawn structure where I'm going to be able to exert some pressure against the black castle. Well, here, careless mistake by Carlsen. He went for castling again. I was a bit shocked that he went for that, so I double-checked everything, and it turns out that white simply wins a piece. Perhaps he thought I only had bishop e3, which seems good, but after queen b4, black is able to stabilize, because, well, I can't actually win a piece. There is no tactical, well, there are tactical tricks against white, so it doesn't really work. But here there is bishop c3 simply. And he can't protect the bishop, the knight on d7. It's simply lost there. Well, he could have resigned here, because he loses a piece, but he took on f2, I took on d7, he played bishop e3 check, I went to c2, and here he resigned. He's simply a piece down. So, well, very unusual mistake, of course, and very serious mistake, of course, for a player of such strength, even though Magnus was very young. But perhaps, you know, carelessness of young players, however strong they may be, you know, this was just a small accident, and of course Magnus Carlsen managed to get his way to the top, and 2 years later in the same tournament in Biel, he emerged as the tournament winner at the age of 17 only. So actually didn't really, it was just a small accident in his career. Thank you very much for your attention. If you liked the content, please just give me a thumb, and of course you can also subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and see you in another video.